Judge!
Hello and welcome to the Cinema Judge. To all my regulars out there, welcome back. Now, if you're new to the show, let me tell you what we're about. We love movies. We love sharing movies with you. We're not here to yell about Hollywood, criticize actors, none of that. We'll leave that to the professionals. It's a crazy world out there. This is a place, a movie oasis, a place where you can get away from it all. It's a noisy world out there. We just want to share movies with you, give you the facts, give you all the evidence that the studio has. We put it together, and we present it to you, the jury, and you make up your own mind. I would never tell you not to see a movie. We all come from different paths. We all have a different life. I don't like it when somebody tells me, don't see a movie. They don't know me, just like I don't know you. That's what I like to do. Get lost in a movie, all the details, get everything I can, and I can make up my own mind. That's why I do this show, and that's why I get so much joy from it. I learn so much just from hearing what actors are saying, the director's saying, producers. I like to collect everything I can. That's what we're about here. Simply put, we all want to spend our hard-earned money wisely, because we all want the same thing, an enjoyable movie experience. Now, speaking of that, today we have a fantastic just popcorn film. Something that you don't have to, doesn't make you all upset or anything like that. It's just a fun Christmas movie, action, adventure, and yes, there's a lot of violence, so it's not necessarily for the kiddies. Like they'll say later on in the show, this is the kind of show, like later on in life, when you send your kids to bed or whatever, you could watch it alone, because there's a lot of mayhem. But that's the point. It's just a combination of so many classic movies that we've seen like this, from Die Hard, Home Alone. You squish them together, an adult version, and voila, you have Violent Night. Now, here's a synopsis of the story. And just this alone, it just sets it up so perfectly. When a group of mercenaries attack an estate of a wealthy family, Santa Claus must step in and save the day and Christmas. Here's a trailer for Violent Night.
You ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the reindeer do most of the work.
This is my 4th year as a Santa. How about you?
I started the whole damn thing.
It's Christmas!
We decided that you could have one gift.
Early.
What is it?
That is a direct hotline to Santa Claus himself.
I can talk to Santa.
All right, revelers. Welcome to your worst Christmas ever.
Let's go!
You have $300 million in your personal vault. That's what I want for Christmas.
I don't want any trouble, okay? Someone's gonna scooch up that chimney.
Who is he? Because it's not your typical mall Santa.
Santa, are you there? Daddy said you were very busy tonight. My name's Trudy Lightstone. Are you gonna help us, Santa?
Yeah, Trudy.
Santa?
You're on my nice list. Santa Claus is coming to town. Time for some season's beatings.
Who the hell are you?
Boss, what if he really is the real?
No such thing as Santa.
These bad men, they're all on my naughty list. Naughty. That's naughty!
And what do you do to the naughty ones?
I give them a lump of coal.
Where is it?
I gotta watch.
I believe in you, Santa.
Which one of you did that? Prancer? So unprofessional.
I mean, come on. That's just great stuff. And it stars David Harbour. Now, you know who David Harbour is. He also stars in that incredible series, Stranger Things. And he knocks that out of the park, and he also does in this. But first, we're going to hear from the director, Tommy Wirkola, and producer, Kelly McCormick. And first, the director, he talks about how he first got this project. But what really drove him to really want to do this movie is, yes, it had action. Yes, it has adventure. But there is a lot of heart in this movie. And that's what kind of sets this apart. If it was just a flat-out action adventure movie, you know that's all you get. But they did layer that with a lot of heart. And that's what the director talks about. And then the producer also talks about just how exciting this movie is and just talks about that.
Well, it came to me through the producers, which is David Leach, Kelly McCormick, and Guy Danella, who sent me the script, basically saying it was Die Hard with Santa Claus. So I read it, thought it was a lot of fun. And yes, it was part of that Die Hard. Certainly it was big, hugely inspired by Die Hard, but it had a lot more in it, I thought. It had humor, of course, action, all those things you expect, but it had a big amount of heart too. And that's what I love about it, the combination of those things, and the fact that it still was a Christmas movie. That was the reason why I jumped on it. Yes, I knew I could do the action, I knew I could do the humor, but the challenge to me, and what I would love to try to do, was to make it a movie with a big heart, because if you nail that, you can go as crazy as you want on the other stuff. So yeah, I came on board and we started doing some work on it, of course, getting my stuff in there, my ideas. The writers, Pat and Josh, worked on the script while we were kind of going out to cast. And then David came on board as Santa Claus, and that kind of set us off.
It just was such a cool idea, such a big idea. Like Santa getting his Christmas spirit back through like beating up people on the naughty list. It's an awesome combination of comedy, action, and heart that is sort of critical for the wild ride and to accept this sort of, big idea.
And there's a lot more going on. Like I said, it's not just a flat-out action film. There is heart to this story, and they're going to talk about that, especially coming up next with David Harbour. And like I told you earlier, he's in the great TV show Stranger Things, but he's also in the 2016 version of Suicide Squad, Black Widow, Hellboy, Revolutionary Road. This guy has just a huge arm of talent and movies that he's done. And I'm really grateful that he's starting to really get appreciated because he has so much skill and he's so authentic. And now in this next interview, he talks about this movie and how when he first got the script. And I love the first part of the interview. He's like, I didn't understand it. But that's what's so intriguing to him. That's what made him really want to keep reading it, because he didn't understand it. But once he dug into it, he found out what it's really about. Here he is talking about that.
Initially, it just confused me. And I think things that confuse me, I get really excited about. Initially they pitched it to me and they said, it's going to be an action Santa Claus or, violent. And I was like, I don't know, that doesn't make much sense. But then I talked to the director, who's this like Norwegian, like big into Christmas and reindeer and all these things, very excited. And David Leach, who's a big action guy, done some incredible action movies that I've loved. And then I read the script and I was like, oh, so this has a big action movie component to it. It's got a lot of funny stuff as well. But underneath it is this beautiful, heartwarming story of this little girl whose family life is less, she's lacking a lot in her family life, and she needs to believe in Santa Claus. And then by the end of the movie, you believe that Santa's real, and with her, you have this cathartic experience. And I thought that was like quite thrilling, and I thought it would be a real big swing to get it right. I was like, I don't know if we can do this right, because it's hard. But it was exciting to try, and I think the movie turned out pretty well, so I'm happy.
He's just awesome. That's all I got to say. Anything he's in, top shelf, I'll watch it. Now, coming up next, here's the deal. I have a featurette. In this featurette, the studio, they send us this pre-packaged deal that talks about the movie in a nutshell. And what they do is they intersplice scenes, B-roll, interviews, and they play stuff in the background or stuff while it's playing. So you're going to hear from Leguizamo, you're going to hear from David Harbour, you're going to hear from the director, you're going to hear from other cast members talking about this movie. Now, if you want to watch this TV version of it, you can. It's on demand. If you go to Bloomington, Minnesota's webpage, if you go to the shorter version of it, you go to bit.ly//cinemajudge. You can see this show on demand and a whole bunch of others. In case you listen to this and go, man, there's a lot going on, I don't understand. You can always go online to watch this on demand. So here's that featurette. And just one more thing. In these interviews, sometimes they have interviews really shortened that you're going to hear the full version of them later on in the show. So that's how it goes sometimes. You'd be like, wait a minute, I thought I heard him say this already. That's how these featurettes play. They cut up these interviews really small, just to kind of fit the scenario. Here's a featurette talking about this movie.
It's a violent Santa Claus movie.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
This Santa is very different than anything you've ever seen. Like, this Santa has baggage.
10,000 years pass of him giving out toys. He creates this commercialist, horrible world where kids just want more and more and more.
I better get going. Presents aren't going to deliver themselves.
Santa stumbles across his house, and there's a little girl in there that still believes in Christmas, that still believes in Santa.
That is a direct hotline to Santa Claus himself.
I can talk to Santa. Trudy will always believe in him no matter what. Hello, Santa?
Welcome to your worst Christmas ever.
Santa witnesses Trudy in an extreme situation. He has no choice but to act.
Santa? There's two bad men with guns watching us. Are you gonna help us, Santa?
Yeah, Trudy. You're on my nice list. You've been a very good girl this year.
It's like two movies. One, this crazy, die-hard, trapped in a house, mercenaries, vault underneath, $300 million. And then you have Miracle on 34th Street movie. And they just sort of smash together.
Santa! Trudy's trying to help Santa to get his Christmas spirit back. It kind of just warms your heart. They're naughty. And what do you do to the naughty ones?
I give them a lump of coal.
Give them their lumps.
It's all you can eat. Violence, gore, hilarity.
Might be the real Santa.
Really touching and moving, and great freaking action.
This is my friend.
Mr.
Claus. But please, call me Santa.
See, there's a lot going on there. But up next, we're going to hear from the director first. He's going to talk about where we find Santa at the beginning of this movie. How down he is and just how disenchanted he is with the whole situation that he created. And then right after that, we're going to hear from David Harbour, who plays Santa. And I love that part of the interview. He talks about the whole history of Santa Claus, the whole evolution of way back when, and then how it became commercialized, all that stuff. So it's really kind of cool hearing him talking about the character to get him prepared to play for this role.
Well, Santa, when we meet him, he's kind of down. Like he's lost faith. He's lost faith in humanity, in himself, and in Christmas. He feels like it's all about consumerism and gifts and toys. It's not about the Christmas spirit anymore, about being good and kind. So he's really considering packing it up. Like, this might be the last Christmas, is what he says in the beginning for him. And then, of course, he goes on to deliver his presents, and he comes across this house where this family is being taken hostage by Mr. Scrooge and his gang of terrorists. And in this family is a little girl called Trudy, which he befriends and decides to help. And through her and their journey together, he kind of slowly rediscovers himself. And he finds out, again, what Christmas means, not just to him, but to everybody. And also, he finds back to his old self, who he was before Santa Claus, which I'm not going to spoil here. But that also ties into why he can take on all these terrorists and actually maybe come out on top. So, yeah, he goes on a journey. But it's, as in so many Christmas movies, it is truly about what is important for Christmas, and why is Christmas, what it means to you, and it's about being good and kind and spreading that Christmas spirit and holiday spirit. And that's the journey we go on with him.
we started out with, at the beginning of the movie, like, I guess the big question of the movie for me, starting to play this character, and I know it sounds a little silly to go this deep into it, but is like, who is this guy? Like, we all believe in this guy, and we all talk, or our kids do, and we lie to them and tell them he exists. But like, who is this guy? It's some guy in a red suit who comes into your house. He's known as Saint Nick. He's known as Santa Claus. But like, who is he? And so I think what we started with this, almost the 20s or 30s, the Coca-Cola company created Santa Claus, who was like a guy with glasses and a white beard and a jolly belly and a ho-ho-ho laugh, and drank Coca-Cola and delivered presents to kids. And then if you go back, you start to see, like, there's Saint Nicholas, who is like the patron saint of lost souls or something, and Christian mythology. And then there's also, different cultures have different versions of this character. And so we wanted to explore, like, who this guy was, who he might have been. So we start off with him as this saccharine version of himself that has sort of, he's got the nice curly beard and the little glasses, and he sort of hates what he's become. He's become this sort of, this thing for greedy children to kind of consume, like everything else in this world. And as he starts to investigate his life, his own unhappiness leads him back to what he was before and his sort of mythological origins. And this little girl sort of is in trouble and says to him, we don't need a big, fat, jolly guy who's going to give us sweets and presents this year. We need a guy who can save our life, my life. We need a protector. We need a champion. We need a hero. And so I think that enlivens him. And this cynicism sort of melts away, and we start to see that, oh, this guy had a purpose that was different than just delivering, nice sweets to little boys and girls, that he believed in naughty and nice as bigger ideas. And I think he wants to get back to that. And that's what gives him sort of renewed life. And so that whole arc was really fun, to have this dark guy who was trapped in a version of himself that the world thought he was. To have that guy explode because some young people say, we want a champion, was really fun.
And what I really like about sometimes these actors and directors talking like this so openly, a lot of times when these kind of movies come out, you might be thinking, well, they don't care. They're just going to make this movie and so be it. But even with this kind of movie, they still create this depth, and they want to find the character. They do all the research and everything like that that really helps them define their position in that character. Because, again, often when you see these kind of movies that are just popcorn-ish, you think, well, they don't give any thought to the character development or anything like that. But when you hear them talking, it's like, it's just so cool that they sink their teeth into it. Even for a movie like this that's just kind of for fun, but they add these elements to make it even richer. So you invest in these characters. Because if you don't care, why are you watching? So they always have to find something to make any of these characters human. And you can somehow relate to them. And that's what's really cool. Now up next, we're going to hear from the director. And this is really neat. I love hearing about how they came up with what actor to play in this role. And they talk about when they were sitting around the round table or whatever they're doing, talking about who can we get to play Santa? And then somebody just brought up, hey, David Harbour. Now, if you're a long-time listener, I brought this up several times, but I'm going to bring it up again. What they talk about there is when they're sitting around talking about who could play this role, that's the reality show I want to see. That would be the stuff I would tune in for, because I want to see the development of a movie from beginning to end, from a writer writing the story and then submitting it to the agents and submitting it to the whatever network they are, and just watch that process. Because that stuff just entices me. I could get into that kind of reality show. I don't know about you guys, but watching it, the whole process, approaching an actor maybe and going, what do you think of this role? And all those things, that would be the best. So anybody out there who knows anybody, get that show going. Just a whole development of which person's going to play what role and all that stuff. Anyway, that being said, that interview is coming up next, talking about getting him. Immediately after that, we're going to play a clip from the movie. And in that clip, we have Santa Claus in a bar, and there's another Santa Claus in the same bar, and David Harbour, who's playing our Santa Claus, is just, throwing a few back. He's just getting lit up. And they're like, hey, are you driving? He's like, well, I don't really drive. I do more than steering. So that's what's coming up. First interview, then the scene.
Yes, he was. It was early in the process, and the way this works, you get together with the producers in the studio, and you get these names suggested, and somebody brought up David Harbour, and we all just looked at each other and said, oh yes, of course, he's absolutely perfect. It was one of those things where nobody was disagreeing or like, what about this guy? What about that guy? No, he was it. Thank God he liked the script. We sent it to him. I Skyped with him 2 days later, and he loved it. And he had the same ideas that we had and the same approach to the character and the tone of the film. And yeah, he really created a unique and different Santa Claus, I feel like.
Another one.
Well, it's still vertical, so I'd like to change that.
Ho, ho. Bit of pint. You just get off?
I'm taking a break between shifts, I guess you could say.
You ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the reindeer do most of the work.
Now, the side story on this, or not the side story, but the main driving heart to the story is about this little girl named Trudy. She's in the house with all these people who are holding them hostage, and she has a walkie-talkie, and she's talking to Santa Claus. And that young lady is played by Leah Brady, and she is very, very talented. I love seeing these young people out there and where they're going to go. What are they going to do? Because one day, this young actress is going to go on and do more and more stuff. And then we could all look back and say, we saw her on Violent Night. I remember that back in 2022. And then after she does all this other stuff, which she's going to do because she's so talented. Now we're going to hear the director talk about that, about how they found her, and the whole process, and just how gifted she is, and how she improvised on set, and that she just raised the bar. And then after that, we're going to hear from David Harbour, also talking about that young talent. But from his perspective, most of the movie, they're not face-to-face. They're talking on a walkie-talkie. But it was still cool to hear him talking about her as an actress and just hearing about that whole process.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. And she was such a find. And this is her first film. And she obviously did a big casting round and looked at all these tapes. And the moment we saw her, it's like, amazing, amazing. Who is she? Where is she? And by chance, she turned out she was actually Canadian where we were shooting. And she didn't live far from where we were shooting. So it was all a fantastic, like everything was falling into place. And yeah, she understood, like there's one thing to being a good actor. And when you're a kid, of course, it's challenging enough, but she understood the humor of the film, and she understood what tone we were trying to hit. And she actually did some ad-libbing in the movie, which is insane. Like she was throwing out lines that stayed in the film, and she really got into it, and she nailed that role.
It was good, She's wonderful in the movie. It's funny though, we didn't really. Most of the movie exists on us on radio, So a lot of the times when I'm shooting, she works kid hours, so she can't be there and stuff. So the relationship that we had was almost, it was sort of brief. Like I didn't really get to know her that well, but she's so wonderful in the movie, and she's just such a pro that it comes off really great. But we were sort of compartmentalized for most of the movie. But so I didn't really even know how it was going or how it was working. I would see some stuff here and there. I'd do some stuff. But then to see it put together, and when we finally got to shoot that last scene, it really felt special with her. She has a sort of clear innocence and a sweetness that just shines through, and she's just endlessly charismatic. So we were very lucky to have her in the movie.
And he's right. She is incredibly talented. Now we have a scene with her. Now in this scene, It's where they first started chatting on this walkie-talkie. That little young girl, she's in this room full of all these people holding them captive in with her family. And she starts talking to Santa Claus. And the conversation is priceless. Check it out.
Hello?
Santa?
Yeah, this is Santa.
Daddy said you were very busy tonight.
I'm on a break. Who am I speaking to?
My name is Judy Lightstone, and I've been very good this year. I'm in a big room with all my relatives. There's 2 bad men with guns watching us.
Better get you out of there. Take all these bad guys on my naughty list. I'm gonna take a lump of coal, each and every one of them, and shove it straight up
the ass.
Well, I mean, come on, sweetie. We want to keep you on the nice list, you know.
Sorry, can I say butthole then?
I mean, it's borderline.
That's just great. Now, every Christmas movie, you need a Scrooge. And now in this one, we have John Leguizamo. I would love to talk to this guy because everything he's done through all these years, so much variety, from just a recent 2022 film, The Menu, Romeo and Juliet in 1996, Spawn in 97, Moulin Rouge, and another one that was really good that's kind of almost lost in shuffle after all these years, to 1999 film, Summer of Sam. That one, Spike Lee's movie. If you haven't seen that one or haven't seen it in a while, give that one another shot, Summer of Sam. He was just awesome. But now, we're going to hear from the director talking about him and just what he brought to the set, improvising, just bringing in humor and just finding the character, finding the backstory to him. Then we're going to hear from John again, and he's going to talk about just working with Harbour. I love this stuff. And then we're going to hear from David Harbour talking about how much he appreciates working with them. And just it, and I love that banter of these guys travel through their lives and they work with each other. And with David Harbour and John, they were both from New York and they know each other.
He's so good and so funny, and he brought so much to the character. Like, that character is so much him as well in there, and he loves to ad-lib, to throw funny lines in there, and he really made that character come alive. And in addition, we kind of together found, like, we knew we wanted Scrooge to have an extra element. It shouldn't just be about robbing that family. So we came up with a backstory that he loved and embraced, and to make it about something more in the end when he faces off with Santa without spoiling anything. But yeah, no, he was a blast to work with and such a funny guy. And that scene, you know, when he faces off with David, Santa versus Scrooge in that room, sitting in each chair and having a long dialogue scene was one of my favorite things to shoot because 2 great actors, they had great chemistry, and yeah, that was a highlight for me to shoot that.
And you never will. I mean, who can touch David Harbour? Come on. He brings such rage, such dysfunction, and still makes him lovable. Who can do that? Oh my God, I was looking forward to it so much, and it delivered even more than in my wildest dreams. I mean, those sequences were so fun because, I mean, he comes so prepared, and he's got such a depth in his acting. I mean, the rage he brings in, the humor, the pathos. I mean, it was incredible to watch, man. I was like, what?
I love him. I just love him. He's someone who I'd known from New York. We both are New Yorkers, and I've always wanted to work with him. But as things go on, you think, oh, it'll never be right, blah, blah. And then this came about, and I was just he just elevates the movie in such a way. He's such a, you know, legendary, iconic actor, and he elevates this whole bad force in the movie that needs to go against this guy. And he's just so wonderful. I can't say enough good things about John.
Now, speaking of John, he's up next, and he's going to tell us what he felt and what he experienced when he read the script. I love what he says. And then we're going to go right into a clip. And in that clip, on the radio, we have John's character, Scrooge, talking to Santa. And Santa's just like, you know, I just want to keep going on with my stuff here. You know, and John is like, no. You've watched too many movies. This is just a classic scene.
I was like, holy beep. I couldn't believe how violent, how funny, how outlandish it was. I mean, it was, how do they say, balls to the wall? Yeah, I mean, it was shocking. I was like, oh my God, this is what we needed. This is what you need to have in our modern times to cut through all the noise. A movie that thinks outside the box, that's not a remake, that's not another rehash of a pre-done movie, you know, something new and original. Absolutely. It was a page turner. And not only that, I was laughing out loud. And I don't laugh out loud. If it ain't funny, I'm not laughing. And I was laughing out loud, knee slapping as I'm reading. People thought I was losing my mind. But it was that funny. And then I wanted all my friends to read it who are screenwriters because it was so good. It was that good. And then we got on set and it was even funnier. And you got all these great, great actors, Edie, Alex, David Harbour, and the you know, the brilliant thing about Tommy Wirkel is that he hired, my whole crew are stunt actors. So man, those fight sequences, that's them. That's not a stunt double because they are stunt actors.
Is this our Santa Claus?
Yeah, it is. To whom am I speaking?
Well, for tonight, I'm Mr. Scrooge now. What is it that you want exactly, Santa?
I want you to put down your weapons. I want you to let this family go. And then I want to find my reindeer and I want to continue delivering my presents.
All right, who the hell are you really, huh? Some security guard who's watched too many action flicks? Some loser ex-cop stuck in the mall playing dress-up with fat kids pissing on your lap? Stop me when I get it right.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Not to me, it's not. Because I want to make it my personal mission, my holiday to-do list, to find you and to end you.
That is a terrible thing to want for Christmas. Maybe you and I should discuss that in person. Santa Claus is coming to town.
You gotta love those one-liners. That's what these movies are made for. Just that little ding. And you're like, yep, I know what I'm watching here. Now we're gonna hear from John, and he talks about trying to find his character, in that you have to walk that line. You can't be over the top. You can't be doing, you have to really believe the character and you got to fear him. And I love hearing an actor talking about this, about, okay, I'm playing this kind of role, but I still got to, walk this line to make him believable. And then within that interview, then he talks about working with this director and how talented he is. And he has to try to balance all these different themes because there's a lot going on. There's action, there's drama, family stuff. If you have a director who can't handle it, it's just going to tank. It's going to feel scattered. But when you hear John talk about it, it's really cool to see what he says about the director. And then right after he talks about the director, we're going to hear from the director. And he also kind of just elaborates on that, talking about there are these aspects of this film that you really had to try to control. And you couldn't go too much one way or the other.
No, I mean, the most sought-after roles in Hollywood are the villains. They're the most fun, the way you can really give it your maximum. But you do have to have restraint. That's where your skill set comes into play. You have to make sure that it's believable. You have to be scared of me. And even if I blow it, you're not scared of me anymore. You don't respect me. You have to respect the villain. And that's the trick. Oh, he's so fun to work with, man. I mean, Tommy's such a lovely guy. He's very gentle, very respectful, loves actors. And he's a writer himself, so he really understands character arc, dynamics in scenes. You're working with a master craftsman, to tell you the truth. I mean, because I've never seen anybody be able to wrangle violence, gore, comedy, and emotion, together in one movie. That's what makes this movie unique, is those three ingredients brought together. And even though I listed four, it's really three.
It is all about balance. And how far do you push this? How far do you push that? Can we do this? You got to make sure that you kind of stay within the world you're creating and the tone you're setting up. But I felt really early on, if we can embrace the Christmas movie nature of it, if we can keep that heart beating throughout the film, then we can get away with anything else. We can honestly, I'm a big believer in tone. And with the right tone, you can do anything. And hopefully we found that right balance. Yeah, no, that was, again, like kudos to Pat and Josh, the writers. They really wrote a script that had a lot of twists and turns, surprises. Hopefully, you know, there's quite a few moments you don't see coming, and yeah, a couple of shocking moments in there too, in a fun way. Like, I only seen the film twice with a crowd, but it is truly a film you should see with a big audience. And without spoiling anything, there's a couple of scenes in the film that just play so great with a big audience where people are just shocked and surprised and laughing together, which is always great.
Now, when you make these kind of movies, you got to go all in. You just can't go softish and, you know what you're in. You got to own it and lean into it. And David Harbour talks about that. And he talks about the director and just talks about the guy's joy, what energy he brings to the set. And then we're going to play a scene. Now, in this scene, it's almost a mini drama part of the movie. The little girl is talking to Santa Claus. He's like up in the attic and she's talking on the radio and he's feeling all glum. And she's like, hey, come on, you could do this. What's your one wish? And then he says, I wish I could see Mrs. Claus again. And then she's like, well, then you do that. And while they're talking, he's holding a wedding ring. And then he drops it and it rolls away. But then it stops right by like either a sledgehammer or an axe. I think it's an axe. And then he just walks up to it, grabs it, and then you'll hear what's going on. But that's the scene after he talks about the director.
Compared to Tommy, David is like the adult in the room. Tommy's like a true child, insane person. He eats reindeer, you know. He's like a weird, like mad Norwegian kid. Again, very positive, very sweet, very enthusiastic, very supportive. That was the vibe that was on set the whole time. And just very creative, like willing to throw things out at a moment's notice and change it all up if we had a better idea. Right from the very beginning, he had a real passion for this story. He really felt like it was like his story to tell.
A bunch of new bad guys showed up. They're on the naughty list. I'm sorry, I think this is it, kid.
No, don't say that.
Naughty list. Just grows and grows.
Don't give up. You make a wish this time, Santa. If you could have anything in this world, what would it be?
I wish I could see Mrs. Claus again. Tell her how much I love her.
Then you make that wish come true.
No.
You said these guys, they're naughty. And what do you do to the naughty ones?
I give them a lump of coal.
Yeah, give them their lumps. Take that coal and shove it straight up their
anuses.
Yeah!
Again, the tone. Just, you gotta love it. Now, this movie, if you've looked into it, the producers and some of the creators of this are from the movie Nobody. If you haven't seen that recently, check it out. Nobody. Again, it's action-packed and violent, but it's really good. And John Wick. This whole producing crew, they're behind these kind of movies. And it really kind of brings me back to several years ago, 80s, 90s, where it's fun again, fun action, just going all in. And I miss that. The comedy and the action, just sometimes mindless fun. And for me, it's great to have that little break between the high drama and this and that. You got to have variety. And the director's up next, and he talks about that whole producing team of what they've done in the past and what they bring to this project. Then right after that, one of the producers, Kelly McCormick, talks about some of the aspects of this movie, the fight sequences, using the environment around you. And that's what it's not just walk around with giant weapons or things of that nature or super deluxe fighting abilities. It's using your environment. And if that environment includes Christmas stuff, so be it. That just adds to the moment.
They generally love action movies, and they have such a burning desire to make great action movies. They just, like, as you've seen in the movies that they made before this, and started with Wick, of course, but going into Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, like, they take action super seriously, and they wanted to every movie to feel special and unique and really deliver on the action part, which is of course important. And one of the things, of course, that they're known for as well is to really train their actors, to really get the actors in there with the stunt team, rehearse the fights over and over and over, and really get that in the actor's system, so on the day they can do a lot of that stuff themselves. But yeah, I would say those things, and especially that love for an action movie shines through.
One of the fun things that we thought, especially at the sort of setup of the movie, is that he fights with the stuff around him, which is like Christmas sort of ornamentation. And that was one of the big ideas in the pitch of the movie that we thought was so fun. Like, you know, these innocent looking, you know, lights on your tree can strangle a dude to death in 2.5 minutes, or, you know, a nutcracker can, you know, be more than, you know, a lovely display for cracking nuts, which nobody even does, and it can turn into something really violent and gruesome. And, you know, we play into that a lot in the movie, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun for people to see.
Now, when they shoot action sequences, that can't be easy. You got to coordinate so much involved. And we're going to hear the director talk about that he feels some other directors might think, it's boring, it's tedious, but he really talks about how much he enjoys it. And then we're going to play a clip. Now, in that scene, we have Santa Claus. He's upstairs in the attic, and here there's a bad guy, and they're facing face to face, and they're having this discussion. He's like, oh man, come on, and a little spat breaks out. And then within that spat, the machine gun shoots off, and it shoots into the ceiling. Well, on the roof are the reindeer, and those bullets fly up there by the reindeer, and they're like, ooh, oh no, and they run off, and then Santa Claus is like, oh, come on, you can't go. It's just a fun scene.
I think some directors think or find shooting action can be kind of not boring, but it's painstakingly takes a long time, and I personally, I love it. I think it's one of my favorite things to do. And obviously, we also have a great second-year director, Jojo Eusebio, who killed it and did a lot of the action as well. But this is a movie that, yes, we have the relationship with Trudy and Santa, but it's also a big action movie, and we got to deliver on that front. And it was really fun sitting down, trying to map out the different action beats and how we kind of reveal Santa, who he really is, to those beats. And also, what we kind of came up with really early on, and we discussed a lot, okay, how can we bring Christmas into every fight? How can we bring Christmas decorations or Christmas, anything relate to Christmas, we want to bring that into the fights and embrace it. And, you know, as you saw, like we had also Santa's endless sack of gifts and his reindeers and how we can go up chimneys. Like, we want to use all that and more within the fights to really make, that's the key. That was our way into making the fights unique and stand out, was to really just use Christmas.
I don't want to get involved. I just have a job to do, okay? That's it. I'm just going to take my bag. I'm just going to scooch up that chimney.
Enough talk. Let's go.
You don't want to do this.
What? This? Now move. Are you deaf? Move.
See what I'm saying? Just hilarious. Now, next, we're going to hear from the director. He's going to talk about his goal of this movie, about mentioning or just kind of little side winks to all the other great movies before, and just putting them all together as a reference, and hopefully then year after year, people will go back to this one and watch it. And then right after that, we'll hear from Santa himself, David Harbour, saying that this movie really should be watched in a theater.
Yeah, no, that was the goal. Yeah, that was for sure the goal. And to take something, of course, that people know so well and have so many, you grow up and it's a small kind of, I guess, genre, but it's an important one. And you watch them every season and you pick your favorites. And there are even different genres within the Christmas movie, obviously. So the goal was, okay, how can we make something original, fresh, and fun, but that still feels like a Christmas movie. When you walk out of theater, I really want you to feel like filled with Christmas spirit. That was the goal. And it was a lot of fun trying to pull in from other Christmas movies and how can we, like, for example, Die Hard is the obvious one, but you have Home Alone, you have Christmas Vacation, and then in addition we have a lot of Easter eggs from a lot of the Christmas movies. Our movie allowed for us to tribute these movies, but at the same time creating our own thing and making something that hopefully stands out, then hopefully that people will watch next Christmas and next Christmas. So when the kids are to bed, they will put on the more grown-up Christmas movie.
All the press that I've seen come out about the movie, so I've been very heartened that people seem to really like it, is they're all saying see it in a packed theater, because I do know that in a group of people, I've seen the movie alone and I've seen the movie with a group of people, and I have to say there's something about the spirit that hits you about 10 minutes into the movie. Initially, you're all confused, as well you should be. This movie is insane. And then it sort of becomes this collective experience where everybody's just lets go and is having a good time and laughing and going crazy and, turning away from the gore and also just, crying at the end of the movie. It's just feels like a real communal experience, this type of movie. So I think you should see it in the theater with a bunch of people.
And I just love hearing him talk about the movie like that. You're laughing, you're crying, you're turning away from the gore. And that's what this kind of movie is. It's just sheer fun. It just unplug, get your popcorn or whatever snack you have, and just enjoy the mayhem. Because this movie is a combination of a whole slew of different Christmas movies. From Die Hard, Home Alone, and on and on. They've already named them earlier in the show. But that's what this kind of movie is. Where you just have fun with your family, friends, and especially if you do watch it in a group. And even if you can't see it in a theater, this is the kind of movie that you do want to watch with a whole household of people. You get your friends together, you have a great night, and you just enjoy it. And I love these kind of movies because not every movie is there to change your life. It's just a movie experience. And that's what this kind of movie is. Now, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Violent Night. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve the show, let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, because I can't grow if I don't know. I'm always open for suggestions. Or you can visit on Instagram, YouTube, whatever you want to do. I'm there. And I actually do have some Facebook pages and groups. I opened them like a long time ago, and I've never really plugged them or worked on them. But they're there, so maybe one day I'll try to work on that more. But just so you know, there are some pages out there about this podcast/TV show. All right, guys, my loyal listeners, you know what's up next. This is shout-out time to everybody who listened to the last episode. But if you're a new listener and you've listened to some of my past catalog and you don't hear me mention you, it's only because this is for the previous episode. But rest assured, every time any of you guys out there listen to previous episodes, man, do I get stoked. Because I'm like, yes, people are still listening, and you might be wanting to watch a movie on demand, and I have a show on it, and you might want to learn more about it. Well, that's what it's there for. An archived selection of movies so you could learn about whatever movie you want to watch that particular day. And I love hearing from you guys telling me how you listen to the show, whether you're driving to work, sitting at home, or whatever you're doing, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, or even as you go to bed at night. I just love hearing about how this show gets digested by everybody. And you might be even listening 2 years from now. I don't know. But it's just so cool hearing about how you guys listen, and so glad that you still continue to listen. So wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. Everybody from the United States, Canada, Germany, I am so grateful. And all the people, if you're sharing the show, I truly appreciate that. Whether you're telling your friends, family, or liking it, following, keep it up. That is so cool. I love it. Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, Ottawa, Ontario, New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, Springfield, Missouri, Vancouver, British Columbia, Pasadena, California, Littleton, Colorado, Holyoke, Mass, Cottage Grove, Minnesota, Tappan Knock, Virginia. I know I butchered that last week too, but Virginia, you're solid. Thank you very much for coming back. St. James, Minnesota, thank you very much. And of course, like always, Frankfurt AM Maine Hess. So many of you on that list listen every episode, whether it's a blockbuster, independent film, whatever it is. But that's what's so cool. You guys keep listening, and hopefully you're learning stuff just like I am, because I love hearing the nitty gritty of what these movies are about. Because we just come here, forget about the world, and listen about movies. So to each and every one of you, thank you a million. But now it's the bourbon shout-out time. This week it goes out to Shayla, Jess, Juan, Alicia, and Vicky. Just name a few of you guys I talked to this week. Cheers. Now, if you're a regular listener, you know at this point of the show I talk about the tunes I was listening to when I was making a TV version of this. Because, as you well know, this is also a TV show. And what I do there is, I just sit there and crank music, and I don't have to worry about talking or making noise in the background. Just me, the computer, and music. And that's just my happy place. Movies and music. Just a match made in heaven. But I'm just sitting there, and I was like, well, what I'm in the mood for in this episode? Because every time, in certain episodes, there's a tone, or there's a feeling to it, and you just got to try to match it. Or sometimes you go against grain, because you don't want to get too caught up in all the emotions if it's a really deep movie, so you want something light, fluffy, and happy. This week I was like, well, I was kind of all over the place, because this is just a fun movie. It's not heavy by any stretch of the imagination, so I wanted something to kind of reflect that, kind of fun, light, but enjoyable, of course. So I first threw down Duran Duran's Greatest Hits, and of course, what an incredible set of music. Their music just, you know Duran Duran, but if you don't know them, get the Greatest Hits and give it a playthrough. It's just good stuff. And there's some songs on there that just remind me of certain times in my life, certain people, memories, and it just brings you right there. And just like, man, what a great memory. And same thing goes with the Electric Light Orchestra, or ELO. I threw on their Greatest Hits. And again, boom, just tons of tunes. And I remember seeing Jeff Lynne touring a couple years back. Just put on a stellar show. I never thought I'd see him play live. But Jeff Lynne, what a singer, just a song choreographer. His songs are just magic. And then I dipped a little bit further back in some of my happy memories. I put on George Thorogood. And you know all his hits, I Drink Alone, Bad to the Bone, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he's just legendary. But I first started off on the album Maverick. That is, for whatever reason, I think it was in 1985. Just a great album. And it reminded me of a memory. As I was cranking that album, or, on the machine that I got here, I remember a buddy of mine, we went to a hotel. We were just cruising around hotels, like, what you do when you're young. And I ran into an old schoolmate. And she was just working there cleaning rooms. So we decided to hang out. We started partying a little bit. And then we decided, out of nowhere, let's go see George Thorogood. He's playing at Riverfest. So we got in my 70 Monte Carlo, lived it up, cruised down there, and just had a great time. It's just memories like that you think of, that's what music's all about. It's time travel for the senses. And that's the kind of mood I was in when I was making a TV version of this, which becomes the podcast. Now, I don't do this every episode because sometimes I'm too embarrassed to even admit it. But as you know, I'm a sucker for those sappy Hallmark type movies. In between all my normal movies, well, normal, I get sucked into those things. That's my Achilles heel. And this week, I threw down Falling for Christmas, the one with Lindsay Lohan. And then I did Snow Coming on Peacock, that's from 2019. But I did make up for it in my defense. I did combat it with Troll. That's just one of those incredibly fun monster movies. And it's a Norwegian film, but it happens to be on Netflix. But this bad boy, it is made just like a Hollywood blockbuster. I mean, step by step. I truly think one day it'll be picked up here and they'll redo it. But it was great. And it's basically a giant mountain. All these trolls come alive, or this one troll comes alive. I digress. But it's stellar. I loved it. But those are the kind of movies I call my guilty pleasures for the week. Well, that is it. My glass awaits. I'm thirsty. So cheers to you into the movies. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.